Hello again, I'm John. Welcome back to Should a Man Take It? Today I want to clear something up that trips a lot of men up. Narcissism doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's the quiet one you miss completely. Before we get into it, take a look at this.
What can you say when love goes away that hasn't been said before? I have no rhyme that's different this time. There's no words to sing anymore. I haven't a clue why you...
You've just watched two completely different dinner parties. One loud, one quiet. And if I asked you which one had a narcissist at the table, most people would only point to the first. That's the whole problem this episode is built around. I've lived both of these, the loud version and the quiet one. And clinically, they're the exact same disorder wearing two different masks. If you only know how to spot the loud kind, you'll walk straight past the quiet one and call it something else. Shyness, sensitivity, an off day. That mistake cost me years the second time around, and today I want to make sure it doesn't cost you the same. Narcissistic personality disorder has one clinical definition, no matter which version you're dealing with. Underneath both, you'll find the same three things: a grandiose sense of self-importance, a constant need for admiration, and real difficulty feeling empathy for what someone else is actually going through. What changes isn't the disorder itself, it's how it gets performed out loud. Clinicians split this into two subtypes: the grandiose form, sometimes called overt, and the vulnerable form, sometimes called covert. This isn't some new internet theory. A psychiatrist named Glenn Gabbard described essentially the same split back in 1989, calling them the oblivious and hypervigilant presentations of narcissism, and the distinction has only been refined since. Same diagnosis underneath, completely different performance on top. Here's why the split happens at all. Research points to the same fragile, unstable sense of self sitting underneath both versions, one that needs a steady stream of admiration or reassurance just to feel secure. We'll go a lot deeper into where that fragility actually comes from in a future episode. What decides which direction it gets performed in is mostly temperament. Someone naturally more outgoing and socially dominant tends to chase that admiration outright, out loud. Someone more sensitive to criticism, more prone to shame, tends to get the same need met by soliciting sympathy instead, a quieter strategy, aimed at exactly the same target. This is the version most people mean when they say the word narcissist, and it's the one from my first relationship. Picture that dinner party again. One person can't let a conversation land anywhere but back on them. Every story gets topped by a bigger one. Every compliment gets redirected into a chance to talk about their own achievements. And the moment the room's attention drifts away from them for more than a few minutes, they'll find a way to pull it right back, or just as often, they'll go quiet and disengage completely the second the spotlight isn't theirs. Same mechanic, two faces. The overt form is confident, entitled, comfortable taking up space, and early on that can read as pure charisma. It's exactly why it's so effective at the start of a relationship. The same qualities that make someone exhausting to live with can make them magnetic to date. And because it's loud and consistent, most people around the relationship can eventually see some version of what's happening, even without the clinical language for it. That's actually a small mercy. It means you're less likely to be told you're imagining things. Now picture that same dinner party, a different guest. This person barely mentions themselves at all. If anything, they seem a little insecure, a little easily wounded, quick to mention how hard things have been lately. And somehow, by the end of the evening, you can't quite explain why you feel smaller than when you arrived. That's the covert form, the one from my second relationship. Underneath, it's the exact same grandiosity and the exact same lack of real empathy. The performance is just inverted. Quiet self-pity instead of loud self-importance. Backhanded modesty instead of open bragging, hurt feelings deployed instead of charm. A compliment to someone else arrives with a private jab folded inside it. Criticism gets delivered as concern. And the moment they're challenged on any of it, they become the injured party, often so convincingly that you end up the one apologizing. This form is quieter, slower, and far easier to miss, which is exactly why it took me years longer to name than the first one did. It doesn't look like the picture most people carry around of what a narcissist is supposed to look like. It often looks like shyness. Sometimes it even gets praised by people outside the relationship as humility, which makes it even harder to talk about out loud without sounding like you're the one being unfair. Here's the practical stakes. If the only narcissist you know how to picture is the loud one, and you're actually living with the quiet one, you won't reach for that word at all. You'll reach for other explanations instead. She's just insecure. She's just sensitive. Maybe I'm the problem here. And every one of those explanations quietly puts the weight back on you. None of that means you weren't paying attention. It means the covert form is specifically built, by its nature, to be harder to see from the inside. That's not an excuse for missing it sooner. It's the reason you get to stop blaming yourself for not naming it sooner. I want to be careful here too, because recognizing a pattern in yourself isn't the same as being at fault for it. But it's worth asking, why does a man end up drawn to either version of this, overt or covert, without ever consciously choosing it? For some men, confidence read as safety early on. Growing up with an unpredictable or withdrawn parent can make someone who walks into a room fully sure of themselves feel like solid ground, even when what's underneath that confidence is actually fragility dressed up as certainty. For other men, it works the other way. A partner who seems quietly wounded, easily hurt, in need of gentle handling, can feel deeply familiar if you grew up learning your role was to manage someone else's feelings before your own. Neither of those instincts is a flaw in you. They're adaptations that made sense once, shaped by whatever you grew up needing to navigate. The problem isn't that you noticed confidence or sensitivity. It's that either quality, in someone with this disorder, is a performance sitting on top of the same underlying need, not evidence of who they actually are underneath it. Here's something concrete, because theory only gets you so far. First, a quick test. Over the next week or two, watch whether the behavior changes shape depending on who's in the room. The overt form tends to perform fairly consistently, whether you're alone or in company. The whole point is being seen. The covert form often looks completely different in front of other people than it does once the door is shut. Reserved and easy with everyone else, sharper or colder only with you. That one difference is usually enough to tell you which version you're actually dealing with. And here's a checklist, specifically for the covert form, since it's the one most men miss entirely. Ask yourself, do they fish for reassurance or praise while seeming humble about it? Do compliments toward other people arrive with a quiet jab at you folded inside them? Do they become the injured party the moment they're challenged, even over something small? Does criticism get delivered as concern, "I'm just worried about you," that somehow still leaves you feeling smaller afterward? And do you find yourself reassuring them constantly, even in moments where you're clearly the one who's struggling? If 2 or more of those landed, don't just feel it, write it down. 2 or 3 specific, recent examples with an actual date or setting attached. That's what turns a vague sense of unease into a pattern you can actually name. 2 things not to do yet, though. Don't decide you're dealing with nothing just because it doesn't match the loud textbook picture. That mismatch is exactly what the covert form counts on. And don't go looking for a diagnosis to hand her yet, even privately in your own head. This stage is about building an accurate picture for yourself, not getting ready to confront anyone with it. Naming the disorder out loud tends to backfire, for reasons we'll get into properly in a future episode. Whichever version you just recognized, the loud one, the quiet one, or honestly, some mix of both across different relationships, I want you to sit with that for a second, without turning it into another reason to blame yourself for not seeing it sooner. And if you recognize something of yourself in either performance instead, the need to be the loudest voice in the room, or the habit of turning your own hurt into the thing that gets you cared for, that's worth being honest with yourself about too. Not with shame, just with honesty. Before you go, I want to tell you why this channel exists. I've been in 2 relationships, 26 years combined, with 2 women who both hurt me badly. One whose narcissism was loud and impossible to miss. One whose was so quiet, it took me years to even see what was happening. This series is built mainly for men over 40 who are living with or have lived through a relationship with a narcissist. Though, if any of this sounds familiar to you, whoever you are, you're welcome here too. Next time, we're getting practical about the hardest part of any of this, the moment you actually try to leave, and the very specific ways she may try to pull you back in. If today's episode helped, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss it. And if you want to go deeper than one episode can take you, the first book in this series is out now on Amazon, and a private community for men going through exactly this is opening soon too. Both links are in the description below. I'll see you there.